We are counting down the 9 biggest retail giants shutting their doors across America in 2025. A ranked list that reveals just how deeply the retail apocalypse is reshaping everyday life. From the rapid collapse of once bustling party stores and discount havens, to the slow decline of corner pharmacies, iconic tech hubs, and even community anchors in shopping malls. Each entry exposes a different front in this national wave of closures. It is not just profits on the line, but jobs, hometown traditions, and essentials millions rely on. What forces are powerful enough to bring down brands that once felt too big to fail? Let us begin with number 9. Amanda pulled into the Party City parking lot, expecting to grab decorations for her daughter's 6th birthday. Instead, she found empty spaces and a handwritten sign taped to the door that said, "Store closed." No balloons? No music? Just silence where a celebration should have started. Overnight, every one of Party City's more than 700 stores had shut down. 16,500 workers lost their jobs in a single sweep. There was no warning, no chance to say goodbye. She received an automated text message that read, "Effective immediately, all stores are closed." Sarah, an assistant manager who spent 14 years with the company, showed up for her shift on January 17th to lock doors. At 52, with no college degree and Party City as her career, she was left scrambling and eventually landed at Dollar General for $12 an hour. For Sarah and thousands like her, there was no severance, no support, just a disconnected hotline and a vanished paycheck. Behind the scenes, private equity owners had extracted millions in fees and bonuses, leaving Party City loaded with debt, and nothing left for the people who made the store run. In a single night, a familiar fixture of American life was erased, and the fallout rippled through families and communities that never saw it coming. Big Lots once stood as a last line of defense for families trying to stretch every dollar. By the end of 2024, more than 500 stores had shuttered, and the company filed Chapter 11, setting off a wave of liquidation sales that emptied shelves for good. The paradox was hard to miss. People still needed bargains, but as rents, utilities, and insurance soared, even the cheapest goods became out of reach for the very customers who depended on them. In towns like Marion, Indiana, and Dayton, Ohio, the disappearance of a Big Lots meant more than lost shopping options. Local tax receipts dropped between 17 and 24% within a year, and strip mall vacancies climbed as neighboring businesses lost foot traffic. Home values within a mile of closed stores slipped by up to 8%, leaving families with less equity and fewer reasons to stay. The collapse of Big Lots did not just clear out aisles, it eroded the financial backbone of entire communities, exposing how fragile the promise of affordable retail has become. Dollar General was once the last stop for families in rural towns, an answer when there was nowhere else to go. In early 2025, the company announced the closure of 96 Dollar General stores and 45 pop shelf locations, bringing the total to 141 stores cut from its massive footprint. The decision hit hardest in small communities where alternatives are miles away. Inside the stores that remain, the strain is impossible to ignore. Many now run with just one employee per shift, especially at night. Shelves stand half-stocked with basics like laundry detergent, and canned food running out for days. Cardboard boxes stack up in the aisles, waiting for someone to have time to unpack them. Shoppers, already stretched thin, are coming in less often and buying fewer items, with the average basket shrinking by over 4% since last year. For some towns, the nearest place to buy groceries or medicine is now more than 20 miles away. When a Dollar General closes, it's not just a store that disappears, it's a lifeline cut off, leaving gaps in places already running out of options. The glow of a 7-Eleven sign once promised that a snack, a coffee, or a gallon of milk was never out of reach, any hour, any neighborhood. In late 2024, that promise began to flicker when 7 & I Holdings announced the closure of 444 stores across North America, cutting into a network that had been open around the clock for generations. The reasons were blunt: inflation biting into every transaction, foot traffic dropping by over 7%, and old staples like cigarettes selling at their lowest levels in decades. For many franchise owners, the math no longer worked. The cost of restocking shelves, paying higher wages, and covering soaring insurance premiums outpaced the late-night sales that once kept the lights on. In cities like Chicago and Philadelphia, some stores started shutting their doors at midnight, a first in decades, while others installed heavy steel gates, a visible sign of the strain. Franchisees reported shoplifting incidents climbing to as many as 40 or 50 a month, up from half that just a few years earlier. The 24/7 model, once a symbol of urban convenience, now faces limits set by economics and safety. For customers, it means finding locked doors where there used to be certainty, and for thousands of workers, another piece of everyday life slipping away. Robert always looked forward to back-to-school season, not for the sales, but for the ritual. Every August, he and his kids would walk the bright aisles of their local Best Buy, testing keyboards, comparing headphones, and listening to the hum of new technology. In 2024, that tradition ended. Robert pulled into the familiar parking lot in suburban Chicago and found only a locked door and a printed sign that said, "This location is now closed. Please shop online." He is not alone. Across the country, Best Buy closed 24 stores in fiscal 2024, with another 10 to 15 closures planned for 2025. The experience that once set Best Buy apart, hands-on demos, knowledgeable staff, a sense of discovery, has faded as more shoppers browse in person but buy online for a lower price. The average time customers spend in store has dropped from nearly 50 minutes to just over 20 minutes, as the showroom has become a pit stop, not a destination. Best Buy is shrinking its footprint, replacing sprawling stores with smaller, streamlined formats and cutting back on staff. The old ritual, walking in, asking questions, learning from an expert, has become rare. For Robert and millions like him, the loss is more than inconvenience. It is the end of a gathering place, a small piece of the future that once felt close enough to touch. Subway once stretched across the country like a safety net for lunch breaks and quick dinners, with more locations than McDonald's or Starbucks. But by 2025, that familiar green and yellow sign is vanishing from neighborhoods at a pace few expected. In 2024 alone, over 600 Subway shops closed their doors, pushing the total number of U.S. locations below 20,000 for the first time in decades. Since its peak in the mid-2010s, more than 7,600 stores have disappeared from the map. The roots of the collapse run deeper than simple competition. Overexpansion in the franchise model led to aggressive growth, with new shops opening just blocks apart, often undercutting each other, and forcing owners into battles for the same shrinking pool of customers. Franchisees, squeezed by rising food and labor costs, found themselves unable to raise prices or cut corners any further. Margins thinned to the point where many operators barely broke even as corporate fees remained fixed. Customers noticed the difference. Complaints about declining quality grew louder, with bread that did not taste fresh, vegetables that seemed limp, and meat sliced thinner than ever before. Meanwhile, a growing appetite for food that feels local and authentic pulled Americans away from formulas repeated thousands of times a day. The result is a chain that once fed the country, now hollowed out by overexpansion and changing tastes, leaving empty storefronts where the Eat Fresh promise used to live. Walgreens has long been a familiar landmark in American neighborhoods, a place where prescriptions were filled by name, where a pharmacist might remember your family, and where the daily routines of care played out quietly. In 2025, that sense of reliability is slipping away. Walgreens is in the midst of closing 1,200 stores nationwide, with about 500 of those shutting their doors this year alone. That is nearly 14% of its entire U.S. footprint, and the impact is felt most in communities that already have few options left. For many seniors and families, the nearest pharmacy is no longer just down the street. In parts of Arizona, Ohio, and rural stretches of the South, people now drive 20 miles or more just to pick up medication or get a flu shot. The loss is not measured only in miles, but in the anxiety of wondering where to turn when a child gets sick or a prescription runs out. Inside the stores that remain, the changes are impossible to ignore. Aisles once open and inviting are now blocked by plexiglass, with entire sections under lock and key. Quick errands stretch into long waits as staff scramble to unlock shelves and manage rising demand with fewer hands on deck. The reasons behind these closures run deeper than declining sales. Rent, insurance, and labor costs have all soared. Pharmacy wages in particular have jumped, as shortages make hiring harder and more expensive. At the same time, theft, both casual and organized, has pushed Walgreens to invest in security measures that slow down service and frustrate loyal customers. For many, the store that once felt like a safe harbor now feels like a fortress. The disappearance of Walgreens is not just about losing a place to buy shampoo or snacks. It is about the slow unraveling of a social fabric, where the last remaining link to personal, in-person healthcare is quietly disappearing. When a pharmacy closes, it leaves more than an empty building. It leaves behind neighbors who must travel farther for care, seniors who lose a sense of independence, and communities left wondering what will fill the void. When Macy's announced the closure of over 150 stores, it wasn't just another corporate downsizing, it was the unraveling of a tradition that shaped American life for generations. In 2025 alone, 66 Macy's locations are shutting their doors, pulling the plug on anchor stores that once drew families through mall entrances every holiday season. The impact ripples far beyond the empty display windows. At Chicago Ridge Mall, foot traffic dropped by 21% after Macy's left, according to mall analytics. Stores that depended on Macy's crowds, shoe shops, jewelry counters, even food court vendors, suddenly faced empty aisles and shrinking sales. Some tenants were forced to renegotiate leases at a loss. Others simply packed up and left, triggering a cascade of vacancies. For decades, Macy's was more than a store. It was where families posed for photos under twinkling lights, where parents brought children to see the holiday displays, and where generations returned year after year for back-to-school shopping and wedding gifts. The red star above the entrance was a signal that something special was happening inside. Now those rituals are fading. Parents in places like Paramus and San Jose describe driving past darkened windows, explaining to their kids why the store where they once picked out Christmas ornaments is gone. The economics behind these closures go deeper than online competition. Rising rent, utilities, and labor costs have pushed department stores into a corner. Even loyal shoppers, squeezed by inflation, visit less often and spend less when they do. For malls, losing an anchor like Macy's isn't just a blow to prestige, it can threaten the financial structure of the entire property. Some mall bond covenants are tied directly to anchor tenant revenue, and when those anchors leave, the risk of default grows. Landlords scramble to fill the void, but few retailers are willing to take on such massive spaces in a shrinking market. The slow disappearance of Macy's is a story of shared rituals dissolving. It's about the loss of a gathering place, a familiar backdrop to family milestones, and the economic web that once held entire shopping districts together. When the anchor sinks, the whole ecosystem feels the pull. Walmart has been woven into American life for more than half a century. In towns big and small, the blue and yellow sign is more than a place to buy groceries or school supplies. It is the center of the local economy, the largest employer, and often the only place where neighbors cross paths every week. That is why, when a Walmart closes, the shock travels far beyond the empty parking lot. In 2025, store closures that once seemed unthinkable are now a reality. Internal company memos, circulated among regional managers in cities like Portland and Atlanta, lay out the new math: rising wage bills, surging utility costs, insurance premiums climbing higher each quarter, and mounting losses from theft. The documents are blunt. Losses are now considered unsustainable, and even a few bad quarters can put an entire location on the chopping block. When the decision lands, it is abrupt. Employees, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, are handed notices with just days to prepare. Local officials scramble, as the town's biggest taxpayer and job source disappears overnight. The fallout is immediate. In communities where Walmart anchors a shopping plaza, the ripple effect is harsh. Strip malls lose their main draw, and neighboring stores see foot traffic dry up. Property values within a mile of a closed Walmart can drop by 30% or more, as realtors and homeowners struggle to explain why the area's biggest employer is gone. Local governments lose sales tax revenue that funded schools, road repairs, and emergency services. For families, the nearest alternative may be 20 miles away, and for many seniors, that trip is simply out of reach. Inside company headquarters, the response is to look forward, not back. Walmart is pouring billions into automation, robotics in warehouses, AI-powered logistics, and self-checkout systems designed to run with fewer workers. The new model is leaner, more efficient, and less dependent on the rhythms of small-town America. As automated distribution centers come online, the need for sprawling stores and large staffs shrinks. The company's public statements frame this as modernization, but for the people left behind, it feels like a retreat. For older Americans, the loss is personal. Many describe Walmart as the one place where they felt connected, to friends, to bargains, to the pulse of their own community. When the doors close for good, it is not just the end of a store. It is the disappearance of a gathering place, a source of stability, and a piece of belonging. The retail apocalypse is not just about numbers or profits. It is about the slow erosion of the everyday places that hold American life together. Across all 9 closures, one pattern stands out: when the cost of doing business outpaces what everyday Americans can afford, even giants fall. The collapse isn't about brands. It's about the shrinking middle class and communities losing their gathering places. The retail landscape is being rewritten in real time, and what disappears isn't just shopping. It's the fabric of daily American life. Let us know how your town is changing below.